Now that we've been practicing simplifying rational expressions, we're ready to talk about multiplying rational expressions. You need to remember how to multiply fractions. And I hope you remember that we simply multiplied straight across. A times C, B times D. And of course, the denominators cannot equal 0. Now, again, we have this first step that asks you to completely factor the numerator and the denominator. Because if you remember, back when we were talking about fractions, I said that you needed to learn to simplify before you multiply. And I hope you were practicing that. It's not something I can see when you're answering in Pearson. I can't check to see if you simplified first, but it was a habit I wanted you to create when working with fractions, because now it becomes especially important. If you don't simplify first, you're going to create a mess that's difficult to get out of. After we factor, we can divide out any common factors. Remember, that's the top and the bottom that we're looking at. We're simplifying. Next, we can multiply. So we don't actually multiply until we've factored and then divided out common factors. And of course, for practice, we are going to state restrictions. So let's look at this example here. Why don't you pause your video and factor everything here? Now notice that I am not showing my factoring work here. That's the kind of work that should now be done on your paper for rough work. I do not want to see the factoring work in your multiplying question. So if I ask you to verify a test, if I ask you to verify your final exam, the factoring work needs to be done as rough work. We're looking for common factors. We see that x plus 4 is common in the numerator and the denominator. We see that x minus 4 is common in the numerator and the denominator. So we're left with 5 times 3x plus 1 all over x times x plus 1. And again, this is your answer in factored form. If Pearson asks for factored form, you leave it here. If Pearson does not ask for factored form, you need to open the brackets using the distributive property. Be careful about that. Now, I said we wanted practice stating restrictions. The restrictions occur when the denominator is equal to 0. Now, we've already factored the denominator, so I just need to say that each of those factors cannot equal 0. So we're looking for our restrictions now. And we're going to start with that first factor. X cannot equal 0. Our next factor, x plus 1 cannot equal 0. So x cannot equal -1. This factor here, x plus 4 cannot equal 0. So x cannot equal -4. And x minus 4 cannot equal 0. X cannot equal 4. You can see for this question, we have 4 restrictions, even though in our simplified form, only 2 of those factors remained. So if you've printed these notes like I've asked you to, you have space to do your rough work. Why don't you pause your video? Factor the numerators and the denominators, divide out the common factors, and write this expression in simplest form. So we've factored everything. We see that x minus 8 can be divided out. X minus 4 can be divided out. If you're asked to leave your answer in factored form, do not open the brackets. So read carefully. Is it factored form? This is where you stop. If it's not factored form, open the brackets. Now, one more time, when we're looking at restrictions, the denominators cannot equal 0 from the original question. We've already factored those denominators here, so let's figure out what our restrictions are. So we use this x minus 8, it cannot equal 0, so x cannot equal 8. We used our x minus 2. We see that x cannot equal 2. Now x minus 4 happens twice. We only need to state it as one restriction. X cannot equal 4. There are 3 restrictions for this question. I also wanted to point out that when I divided out the common factor of x minus 4, we divided from the numerator and the denominator. I did not use the factor beside it. Remember, when we're dividing, it's a numerator divided by the denominator. Here's a final multiplication practice question. Why don't you pause your video, write this in simplest form, find any restrictions. So you factored the numerator and the denominator. We found that 3x plus 2 is a common factor, x minus 2 is a common factor. So we have your solution here written both in factored form and with the brackets open. Both are correct, it just depends on what's asked for. And of course, we had to also find the restrictions. Remember again, for the restrictions, we are only looking at the denominator. We've already had the denominator factored, so we used our first factor and see that x cannot equal -2/3. We used our second factor, found that x cannot equal 2. We used this factor, found that x cannot equal 1/2, and this factor, x cannot equal -3.